wondering why one of these arrows sounded like an absolute missile going through the air. It's because the fletchings are getting ready to tear off of it, so they were just flapping around a ton. That's weird. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm not going to tell you good night. Wanted to make a really quick video today, going over something that is a very, very real thing that you're going to be using in hunting season. And really all of the content for these next couple months, I'm going to try to make it focused around hunting, either hunting tips, hunting tactics, and then probably mid-November, just actual hunting videos. But in the meantime, I wanted to make a pretty quick video going over pin gapping. And that is something that you see a lot of people kind of struggle with. It's really a polarizing thing where either it just clicks with you and you get it right away, or it's kind of hard to catch on to. And there's just a lot of really confusing information out there, or I guess overcomplicated information out there about pin gapping. And I guess if you've never heard of that, or if it's kind of a new thing to you, or if you just call it something else. When I say pin gapping, what I mean by that is that if you're aiming at something, in my case, this deer here, which is at 35 yards, right? Now, if you're like me and you have a 3-pin sight, your pins are set for 20, 30, and 40. As much as I would like for every deer to come out at 20, 30, or 40 yards, that doesn't happen. And that's where a moving sight comes into play. Because if that deer is at 55 yards, I'm able to drive that sight down to 55 yards, or if it's at 52 yards, I can drive it down to 52. Specifically though, hunting whitetails, you don't really get that opportunity to move your sight to the exact yardage that that deer is at a lot of the times. That's where pin gapping comes into play, where I'd be taking where I want to aim, which is 35 yards, and taking my 30-yard pin and 40-yard pin and holding my target right in between those two in hopes that it hits in the middle and hits at 35 yards. That's it. That's the video. That's really as simple as pin gapping should be. It sounds really easy, but actually implementing that when you're at full draw on a target, or better yet, when you're actually at full draw at an animal, is a little bit harder to do. So there's a couple different tactics out there of kind of how to pin gap, and really what it comes down to is just getting your arrow to hit where you want it to. So I wanted to make a quick video kind of going over my tactic of how I pin gap, just something to keep in mind, and hopefully you guys find it useful. So let's go over that right now. So this deer down here is at 35 yards. My sight right now, which is the CBE Engage, has 3 pins. That middle pin is my mover, but I have it set to 20, 30, 40. So what I'm gonna do if I want to hit 35 yards is go ahead and get to full draw and look at my 30 and 40 yard pin. Now, most of the time when you're aiming, you never wanna focus on your pins. In this like 5-second period right here, you kind of do want to focus on your pins, because that way you're going to be able to see where both of them are and put them where you want on your target. I went ahead and threw that wind cover on the mic because it was getting just a little bit too windy. Like I was saying, I'm going to go ahead, get to full draw on this deer, and basically treat it like a normal pin gapping situation. I'm going to get to full draw, and since this deer is at 35 yards, I'm going to put my 30-yard pin and my 40-yard pin. So where I want to aim is right in between them. Now this is where my tactic is a little bit different. I'll go over that right now. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your 30 and 40 yard pin, and if where you want to aim is at 35 yards, you're going to put it right in between those 2 pins, and vice versa. If it's at 25, you take your 20 and 30. If you have a 50 yard pin, if it's at 45, you take your 40 and 50, so on and so forth. But you're going to take your 30 and 40 yard pin and hold them so they're right above and right below, and that target is somewhere in the middle. And then you're going to see your 30 or 40 yard pin and see what that is aiming at, and then just switch to that. That is your point of impact. That is where you want to aim. That's where you want to focus on with your 30 yard pin. The reason being is that when you are focused somewhere that your pin is not, your pin, if you have a subconscious shot, is going to float towards that point of impact. So whether that means your 40 yard pin is going to slide up or your 30 yard pin is going to slide down, eventually it's going to lead to you not hitting where you're actually trying to, because that point of impact in your mind needs a pin on it to look right. It's a very subconscious thing. It's a mental game. So it's way easier to just switch to where one of your pins already is and just hold on that point of impact, knowing that's not actually where you want to hit. That's just where you're aiming at, so your arrow can drop in to your target. I'll go ahead, kind of do a visual on that here and fire a couple shots and show you. It's really something that you need to try out to really kind of figure out what works best for you, and maybe just traditional pin gapping works best for you. But this is something that I've tried out recently, and it really clicks with me. Just being able to aim with a pin instead of aim kind of with your imagination. You don't get as much pin float. You end up hitting really where you want to actually hit just by focusing on where one of your pins is when you're pin gapping. Just kind of a mental break. Now, you have to evaluate with yourself if this is something you're going to be able to do in a hunting situation. If you're going to have that composure, if you're going to be able to think about this when you're at full draw on a deer or an elk or whatever you're shooting at, and know like, hey, I need to focus on where my 30 or 40 yard pin is and shoot there. You know, some guys, pin gapping doesn't work because they just put a pin on the target. But if you have that mental game down and you're able to put your pin where you want to, it really works fairly well. And you end up landing more high percentage shots than I feel like you would otherwise. That vein scares me every time I shoot it now, because I feel like my bow just blew up when something like that's going on. Now, a couple disclaimers. One, if you are a 30-inch draw length shooting 70 pounds with like a 430 grain arrow, this tactic really is not going to be the most useful thing to you. I guess pin gapping in and of itself isn't going to be the most useful thing, because your pins are going to be so tight with that sort of velocity on your arrow that you're going to be able to put all of your pins on the vitals and have a high percentage shot wherever that arrow hits within those pins. Obviously, you want to aim precise. You want to pick out a single pin and aim for it, but you can kind of rest a little bit more assured than other people that your arrow is going to hit somewhere that's going to equal a kill shot. Also, if you have T-Rex arms like me, or if you feel the need to shoot a tube missile out of your bow, like a lot of people nowadays, you need to be very precise and very careful when you're pin gapping, because that gap is going to be so big in your pins that, you know, what might look right in the middle at 35 yards may actually be 33 yards. And when your arrow is hitting that trajectory and you're arcing that arrow in, 33 and 35 yards could be the difference of missing a deer. So just something to keep in mind. It's definitely something that you should be testing out quite a bit when you're shooting, learning your pin gaps in practice, stuff like that, and then actually implementing that if you have to on a deer. But that's that, guys. That's the video. I hope it came in under 5 minutes here. I'm trying to just pump out kind of a quick one for you. Hopefully you guys found something useful. If you did, leave a comment down below. If you guys have kind of a different take on pin gapping, let me know as well. If you guys do like the video, make sure you like the video. And if you want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notifications, all that good YouTube stuff. Hunting season is in full force here. I've been hunting a lot. I'm absolutely loving it. Make sure you guys stick around. Mid-November, hunting vids are going to start to drop, and it's going to be a lot of good content. And also, in the meantime, if you want to stay kind of up to date on the hunting, go ahead, follow my Instagram. I'll leave the link for that down below and also put it on the screen here. But in the meantime, guys, hope you guys have an absolutely great day. We'll see you around.